So I'm glad you guys could all make it to my talk. I'm really excited about this one. I've presented this a couple other times, but it has kind of evolved based on feedback, and we've improved it quite a bit. So if you've happened to have seen it before, which some of my coworkers have, it's been quite a bit improved since I presented it last. So again, my name's Christer Edwards. I work at Adobe. I'm kind of officially, unofficially, the Adobe Salt Master. So all things salt at Adobe, I have my finger on. I help teams architect. I do evangelization, trainings, education, that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool. I get a big enterprise to work in, and I get to work on salt all the time. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. So let me just dive into this. If this is going to work. There we go. Okay. So let me give you a little background and history on why we did this, why we're building this, and kind of the genesis of the idea and the reasoning why I felt that there was a need for a solution like this. So I'm not historically, I have an interest in security, but I'm not in security. I've just mostly done operations. But sometime last year, I started working with some of Adobe's security team. They had a tool that they wanted us to run. They said, hey, install this agent and it will do security for you. Don't worry about it. Don't look behind the curtain. Don't, just. So I didn't really like that idea very much. I don't like the idea of just magic. I don't like magic. I want to know how it works, right? Now this will be nice and distracting while I talk. So they just wanted us to run this and just, it'll all be fine, don't worry about it. But I didn't really like that idea. I want to know what's on my system, what it's gathering, what it's running, where is it sending data. I don't want just a black box on the machines I manage. So I thought, and you know what? I don't like the idea of yet another agent on my machine. I've already got enough of these. We have, there's already tons of daemons and agents that we have to keep running and make sure are going. Let's just add I don't like adding another one. So we already have a Salt agent. Let's see if we can do security with Salt. So I proof of concepted some things, found out some requirements of what they want to do, and started putting something together. So some of the goals of what we wanted to do with this, leverage our existing tools. Like I said, we already have Salt on all of our systems. Let's see if we can leverage that to do these security scans, get real-time events with things like beacons and stuff like that. I wanted to let operations do the driving, but let security navigate. So let security tell me what policies are, what they want me to make sure is applied, but let me do the driving. Let me run the agents and manage my systems based on their guidance. We want to comply with all the things, of course. There are so many things to comply with. And, of course, profit. Now this is partially, that little joke, but we recently closed very, very large deals because we could prove that we were compliant in certain areas. I'm sure your businesses are the same. You make or break deals with customers or with partners based on how compliant you are. So it is a very real driver for new business and new money and that kind of stuff. So these are the basic goals or the basic things we wanted to put in place. The requirements initially, we wanted to have a secure baseline standard. So every machine should comply with a certain baseline. It should be a hardened baseline using the profiles that we wanted to define. We need file integrity monitoring. And additionally, we want on-demand insights, which I'll talk a little bit more about each of these coming up. But kind of these main three things were the requirements we wanted to address. We wanted to have functionality that would give us these, be able to deploy a secure baseline or audit an existing system and see where it compares with the golden image or that secure baseline. So first we decided let's use the CIS benchmarks. Anybody familiar with the CIS? Yeah, okay, most of you guys. So I started digging into the CIS, and is anybody affiliated with CIS here? Okay, I think the CIS is garbage. Mostly because of maybe a little bit of OCD, a little bit of something, but like you look at the Cent6 PDF and you look at the Cent7 PDF, and for the same check, they are different numbers in different chapters. Come on. Hire a technical editor and standardize this stuff. For a standard, they don't know what standards are. So anyway, that's my frustration and my vent about the CIS. But it's a good place to start. So we started with CIS profiles for level 1 scored items, and that's what we want to start with. We're going to do file integrity monitoring, of course. There's different ways to do this. There are existing tools that do some of this. You've probably used some different ones, AID, Tripwire, stuff like that. And we wanted to integrate osquery. Is anybody familiar with osquery? Okay, some of you. This guy wrote the osquery salt module, so he knows how it works. osquery was open sourced by Facebook. You install it on your machine, and then you can query your machine like you would query an SQL database, but for system things like I want to see all the results for running processes that have bound ports to the network, or show me SUID binaries, there's a bunch of different things that you can just query real time and treat it like, you write select statements like you would with SQL, and it shows you results. And there is a Salt module for this, so we can send queries to it through Salt and get the results back, and then leverage the other pieces of Salt, like the returners, to take those results and send them back to Splunk or Slack or wherever you want to send them. So we wanted to come up with a solution that integrated all three of these things, that was flexible for not only the CIS standards, but for other technical checks. There's technical things in FedRAMP and ISO and STIG and whatever else. So we came up with a solution which I'm very excited to announce today. It's still relatively new, but I want to announce Hubble. This is a modular open source compliance tool built on SaltStack. This is what we're building at Adobe, and we are open sourcing it. So all of this code will be available. You guys can use it. You can contribute to it. I would love you to contribute to it. Thanks. So there will be some more links to the different components and the different modules that we have inside of Hubble, but it's meant to just be a bolt-on security add-on into Salt. So Hubble comes with different compliance modules, a section for FIM, a section for the security audits like the CIS and so on. The security insights with osquery. There's different pieces have different modules in Hubble, but we wanted to make it very easy to use. So all we have to do is there is a Hubble Salt module, an execution module that you can drop into your installation. That is actually kind of just masquerading as an execution module. It's a custom loader that can load all of these custom Hubble checks and audits and profiles and so on. I'll talk about three of the main pieces of Hubble today. The auditing we call Nova. This is essentially the CIS benchmarks or the whatever kind of profiles you want to scan for and benchmarks that you want to comply with. The code is available in the Hubble Stack project on GitHub. And I will do a little demo of this so we can see how it works. Phone's ringing, Adam. Okay, if I can, I guess I have to minimize my presentation. Okay. So, can you guys see that? Okay, bigger? We good? So I have some containers running on this system here. I'm just going to make sure they're all. You guys notice sometimes if you haven't talked to your Salt in a little while, sometimes you have to kind of like prime the pump, right? Send out a couple pings, make sure everybody's awake, and they kind of get up and stretch, right? And then you can actually do what you need to do. So I can do a, if I do a sync all, I have the Hubble module in my modules directory, and I sync that out. It's already been synced, so this isn't going to return much, but that's all you have to do. You drop in the Hubble module, you sync it, then everybody's ready to play. I had you guys get up and stretch. Come on, that's okay. There we go. So now I can do something like Hubble.audit. What this is going to do is load some custom auditing modules that we've written. We have modules for package whitelisting and blacklisting, service whitelisting and blacklisting, file ownerships and permissions, sysctl values. We have plans for firewall auditing modules, SSL cert validations, and expiration, a bunch of stuff. But it executes these modules, and then it reads from these simple YAML files, which we call profiles. And so you don't have to actually learn how to write any Python to contribute to this, or to write checks, or to say, I need to make sure this is set in a certain way. You can just populate this YAML profile and say, use this, and the modules underneath will parse it and run the audits. So what I've got here, for example, my Ubuntu container, 0% compliant. And here are all the tests that I failed. So CIS 2.16, I can go look up in the PDF, see what that is, add no exec option to this partition. And I've done that for all of my machines. And it took 5 seconds? I mean, it's very fast. So Ubuntu is 0% compliant on my system. I've got some Cent systems on here. If I can, suppose I could just target the Cent ones. CentOS, 60% compliant based on the profile that I fed into it. And here are the tests that I failed. If you also want to see the tests that passed, there's an option. You can say show success true, and it'll show you the ones you also passed and the ones you failed. So we just run these checks, and it tells us where we need to improve, what we need to change. There's a link back to some standard to give us more information. So this is very fast, and it's very modular, and it's easy. And now to extend it, we can incorporate this with any of the Salt returners that we have. So I can send this output to Splunk and make a dashboard and be able to see in my dashboard at Splunk, this data center or this network or this host is X% compliant. Here's where it failed. This is what we need to work on. Let's make some tickets or do whatever. We can send it to Slack if you want. If you just want to see what it is in real time. Everybody's using Slack, right? Anybody not using Slack? No. Anyway, so any of the returners you want to send this to your Elk stack, fine. Send it to Logstash and create a dashboard there. Send it to Splunk, send it to Slack, send it to the SMTP returner if you want a bunch of emails about the stuff you failed. I don't know. But there's lots of ways to get this data out and to create dashboards or reports using it. What we want to do, how many people saw the Salt Enterprise 5 demos with the GUI? Did you guys watch those? we want to integrate this with that too, that reporting section in the GUI. This can feed the data into that, and you can create those reports, those dashboards inside of the UI for security compliance. So I can target, like you saw here, I targeted all my machines and told them to run the audit. I can target subgroups of machines. The audit module, which again we call Nova, is also modular. So I could just say, I only want you to run the package stuff. So only run the package module, or only run the service module, or only run whatever. So it's flexible on, you don't necessarily have to check everything, just check subsets of it. Or we treat these things, these are the unique identifiers of the tests, and they, in this case, they correspond back to a PDF, that somebody generated. But we just thought of these, you know what? These are just arbitrary, these are just tags. Call them whatever you want. Create your own profile and have it, Joe123 for your custom check. That's fine, they're not hard-coded, you can create your own. But because we treat these as tags, we can also target by tags. So when I do my auditing, I can say tags equals CIS star, and it will only run the CIS checks that it finds. Or if I create ISO checks or FedRAMP or whatever I want, I can target by tag, and I can use globbing to only run certain subsets or certain chapters or certain profiles. So this is fairly flexible, and we're excited about it right now. So some of what's coming up, I want to have more built-out profiles for all the different standards that you can think of. Automated learning on failures. Send an alert to Slack. Run this. If it failed, I need to know about it right away. The profiles that we defined support two keys that are not yet implemented, but soon. There's an alert key. So you can say, if this check failed, alert Slack, or alert an email, or alert somebody. I need to know about it. And then also we want to support, again, not quite yet implemented, but if Tom can talk about not yet implemented thorium and get away with it, I can do for this. The triggers. So the trigger idea is essentially, if this test fails, I want you to execute a state that patches that. So automated remediation of failed security checks. And we want to incorporate the Salt Package Manager into the different profiles and the different modules. So you can ship those around and install the module using SPM. So there's a lot of stuff that we want to build, and again, we want your help to build this. So I'll have some more links on how you can get involved. But this is some of the stuff we have in mind, and there's really a lot more we can do. The second component, the file integrity monitoring, we call this Pulsar. This is a collection of different methods you can use for file integrity monitoring. What I want to demo uses Salt beacons for real-time notifications of file system changes, and notifies me immediately if somebody creates or modifies or deletes a file anywhere in my box. Using the iNotify beacon seems to be a very efficient way to do it. It just scans the iNotify bus. It's not actually scanning the whole file system every time. But let me demo this as well. This is something that I like quite a bit. Let me move another window over. So I have a Slack channel here. Oh, this is an example of sending the audit output to Slack. So it sends me this, and I can get real-time notifications when I run my checks, just using --return Slack. But anyhow, let me show the FIM piece. So I'm going to create a file, hacksaw.pl. That's a good file you should have. Everybody should have. And let me go back here to Slack. I'm getting real-time notifications from all my hosts. This file was created on this box right now. Now, the iNotify beacon also has an option for, I don't remember the exact option name, but it's something like ignore on state run or something. So if I'm applying a state, I don't need to know about this. I know I am making changes, don't notify me. But if I'm not making changes, I want to know if somebody's messing around with my machine. I want to know if something's being created or removed or edited or whatever. And I want to hear about it in Slack, so I know right away. So that's for file creation. I can append some stuff into that file. Get pretty much instant notifications of file modifications. So again, created, modified, deleted. There are other options available in the iNotify beacon. These I felt like are a good baseline. And if I delete that file, I can get notification. File deleted. So this is essentially event-driven or real-time file integrity monitoring. Slack is kind of a good way to demonstrate it, but again, Hubble can tie into any of the returners, so you can send this wherever you want. Some of the other things that we have in mind for this. Right now, that demo, again, like I said, was iNotify beacons. We'd like to add potentially Audit D support. If you prefer to use Audit D or you want to create custom Audit D profiles, we could tie that into this and you could get notifications that way. Right now, this is using the minion side beacon and the master side reactor. I would like to change this or improve it, and I've been talking to some of the developers while I've been here. It should be fairly simple to implement. The minion side reactor, so the master is cut out of the picture, because I don't want, let's say I've got 1,000 machines. We created a file on 1,000 machines. It's got to go all back to the master to trigger, to send it to Slack or someplace. I just want the minion to see that something happened, the minion to react on it, and the minion to fix it. So that should be coming up soon. And these components are available at this repository in the Hubble Stack repo. And wait, did I just? Oh, I skipped one. Yeah. Okay. So the third piece we call Nebula. This is the osquery component. So this allows us to do on-demand insights into our system. And right now, the only support in Nebula is for osquery. But we've hired some Windows guys to help us write support for Windows. And the thought is to use WMI, WQL, I think, are those kind of equivalent pieces in Windows. So not only this, but all of this should be supported on Windows as well. Our mandate is we have to support the Linux environment, but also the Windows environment. And I suppose I didn't mention, but this is Adobe's solution for compliance monitoring. Like, we're not using anything else. We're building this and we're sharing it, and this is what we're using. So it needs to do everything we need to do. Let me do if you haven't seen osquery before, I can show you a quick demo of that. Thanks for handling the lights, Charles. If I can exit this, yes. Okay. So like I said, these are essentially SQL queries. So this is kind of ugly. But what we do is I don't want to type these every time. That's absurd, right? So we store the queries in Salt's Pillar system and have the osquery module query into Pillar and say, what am I supposed to be looking for? And then it runs those and sends the data back. So this one shows process IDs, process names, command line a bunch of information about running processes on the machine. So I can see that, okay, @d is running, here's the checksums of those binaries, the process ID, all this kind of stuff. And we can look through this and look for, is all of this stuff supposed to be running? Do we have anything that is running that we don't want to be running? There's other queries for show me the processes that have bound network connections. If somebody's running hacksaw.pl and it's connecting back to wherever, I want to know about that too, right? So I'm not going to show all the queries, but we've got a good handful of them, and it allows us to make these queries and return this data real time whenever we want to do it. And we could tie this into, and we do tie this into the Salt scheduler. So it runs these queries every half an hour or something. So if I am on a machine and I'm trying to run hacksaw.pl, I have a very small window of time to be able to run it before somebody sees that I'm running it and it's reported back. And can you tell, maybe I'm more of a Python guy, that I made the evil script Perl? Is that acceptable? Okay. So, like I mentioned, we want to do Windows support for this because currently osquery only supports Unix, so Linux, Mac OS, BSD, stuff like that, but not Windows. I did hear that they had an initial alpha or beta for Windows, but it's not quite ready yet, so we were going to work on the WMI, WQL components. Yeah? Instead of osquery, you would run these, but it's the same concept, and you gather essentially the same data. Each of these security components, the Nova and the Pulsar and the Nebula, are supposed to also be modular. So for the Pulsar one, if I want to do beacons with iNotify, I can do it that way. Or I could use audit-D. Or I could just do checksum validation, where I scan my machine and gather all the checksums and compare them every day and make sure they haven't changed, kind of like AID does or something like that. So yeah, in this case, you would just swap out the osquery module for the WMI module, but you're gathering the same kind of insights. Let's see. How much more time do I have? 15 minutes, okay. So far, does anybody have any questions about these different pieces? That was a good question. No? Yes?
What different types of output can you actually output to for reporting purposes? Like CSV, is it just a file, database, like what can you output to?
So it can tie into any of the outputters or any of the returners that SALT supports. So if I want to dump it as JSON, I could do that. Or I don't know if is there a CSV returner? I mean, there could be, but right. So yeah, anything SALT supports it can use. And if SALT doesn't yet support it, we can write an outputter for it or a returner for it and plug that in and use that too. Anybody else? No? Okay. So like I said, patches are welcome. We want contribution. This is a public project. And if you have ideas for modules, if you have ideas for profiles, if you want to contribute to, hey, my company uses a STIG standard or something, and I want to add a check for that, come and contribute a YAML file and contribute to this. And then if everybody contributes all these checks, then we've got a huge list to choose from. And no matter what platform or benchmark you need to comply with, you can just target that profile or this profile or that one or whatever. And like I said, create your own mix and match, create custom company profile 5, whatever, and do that. So where is my mouse? So if you haven't pulled this up yet, HubbleStack.io is the home page for it. There is a Kind of blundering on my browser right now. Anyway, so this page has information on the different modules, what they do, links to all the GitHub pages, links to the read the docs. We could use more docs, admittedly, but we're still, like I said, this is still somewhat new. And we have, of course, a Slack channel or a Slack team. So if you want to come in and contribute, talk to us, ask questions, contribute an idea, join us in Slack. We'd love to hear your feedback. So yes, please come contribute. Any other questions? Anything else anybody wants to? Yeah.
Does all the buzz about thorium make you want to do anything differently?
I think we'll. Yeah, I'm sure we'll evolve as thorium evolves and the beacons evolve, and we'll. I don't know that I'm going to rewrite anything yet. I want to make sure thorium kind of gets fleshed out first. But right now, just the simple beacons and reactors seem to do the job that we need. Yes.
Is there any part of salt that you haven't used?
Is there any part of salt that I haven't used in building this? I don't know. Not yet, but I'm going to replace the master side reactor with a minion side engine to do the alerting. I don't know. Maybe not the mine yet, but let's add that, just so we can say we're touching all of salt as much as we can. Anyone else? Okay. Guess I might be done just a touch early. You're welcome to come up and chat with me, ask me questions. I'd love to hear your feedback, what kind of compliance profiles and benchmarks you need to comply with, and we can add those. Yes?
I was going to say, what about the signal-to-noise ratio? I've seen this sort of pattern implemented over my career with cellular time, cellular technologies, different stuff. And the stuff you think you care about when you write it is never, a good fit for what you really happen to care about the day something goes wrong.
Right.
And a big problem is then you go sifting through all of the data that you're getting out of these systems, and there's a bad signal-to-noise ratio problem. So a good solution always includes some kind of like adaptive filtering.
Mm-hmm.
Any thought about that?
I think we should probably chat and see what you don't want to see in this, or what you don't want to see in the output, or maybe different flags to be more verbose when you need to, or less verbose when Yeah, let's see what you want to do. Anybody else? Yes.
Built-in remediation capabilities.
So, like I said, it's we have support for the keys yet, but they're not yet implemented. But when you create these profiles, actually I could probably pull one of these up, but there's a trigger key. So if I fail test 2.1, I want to trigger a state that patches 2.1. You can put that in for automatic remediation if you want. Or you can just get the report and then go look at it by hand. But yes, we want support for automated remediation. But you have to turn it on, because I don't want to automatically make changes on any of your systems, right? Oh, that would be a good idea. Yeah. We can't promote this machine because it doesn't comply with the benchmark. We have to fix that. Yeah, Jenkins integration would be really nice.
So just curious how it flubs the trigger discrepancy. So they send a message to the event bus, like beacon, we independently look or act on events.
Like I said, the triggers aren't implemented yet. We have the idea, and the code knows to look for triggers, but it doesn't know how to do the triggers yet. So there could be different ways to do them. We could just run the local or use the local Salt client API and essentially do a Salt call and a state application. Or we could fire an event and have something else react. maybe with the thorium interaction, we can have more logic based on the aggregate of results. So there are different ways to do it, but it's designed to be flexible and modular. I want to do it this way, but not this way. I'm not here to tell you how to implement something. Just give you the flexibility to do it how best suits your environment. Yeah?
In the report back, the report says you're in compliance or not. Is there maybe a third option? It's like it's not in compliance, but ignore this because we have a very good reason.
Oh yeah, what's called what is it? Compensating controls. Right. So what we've talked about with that is either just remove that check from your profile. There's a little snippet of YAML. If you don't want to do that check, pull it out, comment it out, something like that. Or integrate a piece where you can blacklist checks. Say, I know the normal profile includes all of these, but we don't care about those, so don't actually run them. Like all of the checks that I was failing here are mostly all partition-based. And these are all containers, so I don't have partitions, so I'm going to fail those every time, and I don't want to hear about it every time.
But what I'm trying to say is like you have to file a full report, and so I need all the items checked, and I say, well, in compliance, not in compliance, or not in compliance because of. And so, yeah, I think I would need the third option.
Okay.
See it back in the report, so not hashing out or whatever. So that was basically my question.
Yeah, I think that would just be. That would probably just be a matter of how we parse the data in wherever we're reporting it. So probably, like, let's say you're sending it to Splunk, you can create a dashboard with your compliance level, and if we included the, yeah, I'm sure it's just a matter of how to parse it and how to report it, but it's surely possible. But I understand that's something that compliance would probably want, but with the exceptions, the compensating controls. Anyway, yes?
I was just going to add to that. We do something very similar. We use Salt for all of our compliance and everything, but we're doing it very manually through the states, which is a nightmare to maintain. But we tag certain ones as exceptions. We put it in justification so that when we write out to a log file, we actually say, this failed, but it's an exception because yada yada yada. That way, when we can just hand it to an assessor, they can look at it and say, okay, I check yes, okay, I believe you. But we do that right in line with the check.
Okay.
That way we add the comment so that every single time, if I'm not there or if I leave the company, somebody else that history is there.
Yeah. Yeah, so it passes the bus test.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Yes?
So earlier when you started talking about the motivation for doing this, which is phenomenal by the way, you indicated that you were doing this because you wanted to remove agents, not new things coming up with boxes. What was the reaction from the security team, I guess, to what's the effect that the process caused?
So we were using, if you're really curious, you can talk to me after and I'll tell you who we were using. I won't mention it on camera. We were using something else, and we didn't like it, and it turned out the security team didn't like it that much either. So when I proposed, look guys, I think we can do it with Salt, and we've already salted all our machines, so we can not only lose an agent, but we can save $1 million. Let's do this. They said, yeah, let's do that. So I'm still waiting for my cut of that $1 million, but maybe, I don't know. Right. So they were open to it. They liked the idea. Luckily, they weren't super married to what we already had. If they would, I would have had more of an uphill battle with that, but it turned out they were kind of maybe quietly looking for something anyway, and we happened to come in at the right time. And part of this, and part of my motivation is, my fiance also works in security compliance, not at Adobe, but at another company. So I come home and I talk about my ops stuff that I do, and she talks about her compliance stuff, and we both had kind of a similar frustration, but from different sides. she's in security telling ops what to do and they don't like it, and I'm in ops hearing what security wants me to do and I don't like it. So how can we address that? Oh wait, let's have security navigate, but let's operations do the driving. And I think that's kind of addressed some of those concerns, and yeah. Right. I don't know that we have any like immutable things right now. We are looking more into Docker, and we'll have to evaluate how we address this for Docker containers. That's still a little new at Adobe, so we haven't quite gotten to that part yet, but I don't see why we wouldn't be able to address containers as well. Yeah. Like I said, my demo is all running in containers, but they're running a full container where I have a minion inside, so I can scan them that way. But yeah. So one more over here somewhere? No? Okay. All right. Like I said, if you want to come up and talk to me after, that's great. I'd love to hear your feedback. That's what I have.